Welcome to the Xbox Uncut weekly podcast.
Bungie, you ripped the money out of your fans' hands and burned it in front of their faces with that piece of shit known as Dustin.
I want to be hyped.
Burn! How you doing?
And Tim and Steve are sucking it out of me.
If you don't want to buy it because there's a woman in the game or on the cover, you can suck it.
Clean your ass up, scrub your ass, put on deodorant, do not put on Axe body spray.
South Park, The Fractured But Whole. Horizon.
Wait a second, we gotta enjoy that title first.
It's so good in the end, your accent too. Fractured But Whole.
Fractured But Whole.
I don't sound like that.
Who the fuck is Master Chief?
Exclusives happen, third-party money has happened, I don't give a shit.
This is a pretty good podcast. I'd say 3 out of 5.
Kill-tacular.
Yeah, that was on Xbox, and the only way as a PlayStation fan that you can be happy about that is because you're happy that Xbox fans don't get to play it.
I finally finished Ori, which took me 36 hours, 1,338 minutes.
Like, Forza they don't program in 0 to 60 numbers. They don't program in how tight a car can turn, how much traction a car has. They don't do any of that. But what they do is they put these statistics into their physics engine and they let their physics engine work it out for itself.
You know how many times I've argued with people and they're like, Persona 5! It's gonna, you know, and then it's like, it's the same shit all the time. It's like, I don't know, they have
to reality and you were like, take down!
You know, exactly. Sony's gonna have more delays. It's just, it's a pattern all gen.
I played Minecraft Story Mode, and if you don't like it, then fuck you.
You can write into the show at letters@xboxuncut.com. And now, your host, Dustin.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to another crazy week of Xbox news, games, people. It's Thanksgiving, but we're doing the show anyway. I know we said we weren't going to do a show. I wasn't really planning on it. I just felt like doing something. I wanted to do something. I'm so used to doing shows. So I was like, I have to come in here. I got to do a podcast. And I need to find somebody not celebrating Thanksgiving. So I brought in Steve Rules from SteveRules.com. Thank you so much, Steve, for joining me.
That's all right. Thanks for having me. It's always good to join you on Thanksgiving. I'm sure you're all turkeyed up.
Oh, man. Dude, I was telling you earlier, I deep fried my turkey. It was freaking delicious. There's not words. It's not words. There's no other way. Like, I know some people like to smoke their turkey. Some want to, do oven. My heart will always be in the deep fryer. Do you have I'm not sure. Do you celebrate any holidays where you have a traditional, like turkey or anything like that? Huh? Maybe.
Just Christmas.
Just Christmas.
Yeah.
Let me tell you.
It's Christmas time.
My Xbox thinks I'm talking to it. But...
Oh, my.
Not you. Leave me alone. Let me use my controller. Oh, now the TV thinks I'm talking. I don't know what's going on. It's a bad day. It's a bad day.
Your TV's got voice recognition?
Yes, it does. And now my Xbox thinks... I don't want to sign out. Stop listening? Yes, it works.
Dustin's having some serious technical trouble here.
Look, I rearranged my room. I have my TV behind me now. So, and I kind of rearranged the whole thing to make it so it's kind of more of an entertainment area. Because I used to have everything set up where when I was doing like quick looks, I'd have the camera in front of me and I could see the TV behind it. But, it's just not worth it anymore. I'd rather have TV over there. It's awesome. Mm-hmm. But I'm enjoying the new layout. But enough about the room. Enough about Thanksgiving. But we'd like to thank, everybody that keeps us safe and protected. It's awesome. Thanksgiving is a great time of year. Remember your loved ones. Give thanks. Just be grateful. That's what this holiday is all about. Being grateful, Steve. Grateful that we got rid of you and your people.
Oh, good reasons to want to be
Yeah, well, a lot of us died to get away, so if that makes you feel better.
Yeah, it's a small consolation.
Yeah, yeah. It's small, but, it's just in your book, I know. But this week we're actually going to talk about the Xbox 360. It turned 10 years old, Steve. 10 years old.
10 years old. My word. I was 15 when that thing came out.
I was 18, 19. Let me tell you, Steve. I got to tell you a story. Did you get one on launch night? I'm just curious.
I did not. I thought I had one ordered, but stock shortages. I didn't get it until I believe it was Wednesday, the 14th of December. It was definitely a Wednesday.
Now, I didn't pre-order, but Target. You shouldn't. I think you know what Target is.
Yeah.
It's a retailer in the U.S. They didn't take any pre-orders. You could go there and get. They had like 20 consoles on launch night, and Sunderland was 12 years old. Wow, makes me feel like an old man. But I went to Target and spent 13 hours in line outside of a Target and stayed there overnight and got me a console. It was, without a doubt, one of the worst ideas I've ever done. But I tell you what, when I got that Xbox 360 home, it was just amazing. It was amazing. The dashboard was the best dash of all time, if you ever listen to the internet. And we all know what that is, Steve. It's the blades. It's the blades. We need the blades back.
We do, in some form. But they did keep them around with the guide somewhat. I mean, because there was all this big uproar when they announced like NXE, as it was back then. And I think was it Major Nelson? Even back then was like, hey guys, if you want to keep the blades, if you wanted to keep using the blades, then you can pretty much do everything apart from use the store in the guide. I mean, that would probably been a rather fairly awkward experience, but you could do it. So.
And then you had the Vision camera. I don't think that came out later. That wasn't a launch day thing.
That was the first time they tried to get camera motion stuff working, and they had that E3 where they showed off that god awful Codemasters game.
What was it? Tumble something. They gave it out for free. It was you had to have like both hands in the air, and you would like move your hand like left or right and to balance the ball to move forward and backwards. It was one of the like worst games I've ever played motion wise. It was just awful.
Yeah.
I can't remember what it was called. It was just.
But they showed a lot of games, and that was when they announced like Lips and like Seeing It Like Camera Action. I think it was all the same sort of year. That was about E3, but they had some. They had so much stuff, but especially in the early days, like 2007. Look at sort of the back end of 2006, and you had. I think it started with like Dead Rising. You had Saints Row, then you moved into like Viva Pinata and Gears of War. And then you wait a couple of months, and then it was just like, bam. You had like Lost Planet, like in the early start of the year, you had Fusion Frenzy 2, then moved on to sort of Crackdown, Forza Motorsport 2, Forza 2, we're now on 6, Shadowrun, Bioshock, Blue Dragon, Halo 3, Mass Effect, PGR 4. It's just insane. Absolutely insane.
I don't know. Like, launch-wise, Cameo Elements of Power was shit. It still holds up graphically to this day. I really think it does.
Did you say awesome. The shit or is shit?
No, the shit. I love Cameo.
Oh, good.
I was a big fan.
That was a great game. I loved that.
Yes. Cameo was awesome. What else came out? Tony Hawk's American Wasteland. That was a game. Call of Duty 2. That's right, Call of Duty. There was no other thing to it. It was just Call of Duty 2. Amped 3 was an awesome game also. I forgot all about that.
The thing is, I never played the first two,
The
but
first two were good. They were solid snowboarding games.
I did play the third, and I wasn't. Excuse me, I wasn't a huge fan of it, but it was a bit of a different direction, I think. So
No, but this was the first time we had a console. No, wait a second. I can't. Did we have background music day one, or was that a year
yes.
later? Okay, we did have a day one. So yeah, it was the first time you were able to enjoy background music and play Tony Hawk, or even though Tony Hawk usually had like a really good soundtrack, but you got to remember at the time, like we were coming out of PS2, going into the Xbox era. Well, PS2, Xbox era, going to 360 era, and like skateboarding, snowboarding, like driving games, like these weird games that kind of just don't exist anymore, really at all. Were all the rage, and like just being able to use they were kind of open worlds, honestly, at the time. Like Tony Hawk was the closest thing we had to an open world.
Yeah.
But you could skate anywhere, and just to have your background music, I was listening to freaking Megadeth or something, streaming it from my computer. It was the first time you were able to really do anything like that. It was so far advanced and like mind-boggling. You just didn't have that you never saw those features like that before. And not even on PC. Like you didn't see it. And everything, so you had a guide that snapped out, everything just did it. And you had a dashboard for the first time ever that you can actually go back out to.
But Perfect Dark Zero, and this game gets slaughtered a lot, and I'd say it hasn't aged well. But
I wasn't a fan.
But at launch, 32-player multiplayer. The campaign had co-op, which was something that Gears of War kind of made big in terms of the way that they did it.
Mm-hmm.
But I thought it was a perfectly good launch title. I really liked it. I was always disappointed we never got a sequel to that.
Yeah. I don't know. It did. I think Perfect Dark Zero was a great sequel to what Perfect Dark is. And when Halo came out, it destroyed any reason to play GoldenEye or Perfect Dark. Because those mechanics no longer worked. Because Halo changed it. So, for what it is as a Perfect Dark sequel, it was an okay game. But there was no point of doing a Perfect Dark sequel.
I think what they needed to...
Jumping needed to be there.
I mean, possibly.
It was dumb. No, look, it doesn't feel right in a game if you can't jump. It feels broken.
Well, I mean, I think to us, I remember it being big news that it wasn't there because they had the roll thing, but they could have brought that back. But I think like looking at when sort of a Perfect Dark 2 as it would have been looking to come out, which would have been 2007, 2008. The multiplayer sort of landscape hadn't. Obviously, Halo 3 and Call of Duty Modern Warfare were about to come out in 2007, but I think it could have been okay as a multiplayer thing then because it wasn't what it is now. But I think going forwards, if Perfect Dark were to ever make a return or something, it would need to be. I don't think it would be multiplayer. Like I honestly don't personally feel that many games these days, a first person need a multiplayer anymore. Like you've got your big games, and you have those developers like Respawn and Bungie who have come up with new things. But they made COD and they made Halo, so obviously they're sort of doing their thing in there. But if it was to keep even being first person, I think they should go much more of a sort of a Deus Ex kind of route if that was to ever to return. I think that would be where its market is in 2015 onwards. I think it would have probably have done okay in 2007, 2008, but sort of now, nobody's going to play that over Call of Duty or Titanfall or Destiny or Halo or.
There's shooter fatigue at this point.
Yeah,
I really believe that. I
think it's more of a first-person thing. Like I've been playing Gears a lot recently. Fantastic games, all of them. Even Judgment, as much as they made some issues with the multiplayer side of it and to do with the weapon switching and stuff, like I feel like Gears doesn't really count as the same as the other two because it feels so different. like I don't, I think looking at sort of Halo 5 and Call of Duty, like I could see jumping between, as I said, Halo 5, Call of Duty, Battlefront, Destiny, Titanfall. Like you could get a bit of fatigue, but then if you go and pick up something like Gears of War, like I don't think there's anything that feels like Gears. Like even third-person games like Uncharted, I don't know. I know it's not quite the same because it's more of a single
No,
player.
but Gears characters, not the guns, but the characters feel heavy. They feel like people.
Yeah, and that's good. And I think that was also what Microsoft saw in 2006 is they saw the chance to think, okay, and Microsoft has said this many times since, we don't need an FPS anymore, like competitive, but Gears fits alongside Halo because it's not an FPS, it's third person, it feels different, it plays different, and it fosters a different community. I mean, I don't know how many people have got Halo tattoos or Call of Duty tattoos, but the amount of
First
Gears
of all,
tattoos is ridiculous.
yes, it's true. Gears has a shitload of tattoos because A, it's tribal, so it goes with most like tattoos. It's very rigid, but a lot of Halo tattoos. Just throwing it out there. Yeah, I've seen a ton of Halo tattoos, but I've also seen a ton of Mario tattoos. I think the closest thing to Gears would probably be Mario, but there are a ton of Halo ones out there.
Oh. Fair enough. I've honestly never seen one. I remember they made, like Rod said at E3 or something, they had like
they
an
had a
announcement.
booth.
They had
Yeah,
an announcement or something to make, and everyone was like, I wonder what this is. And it was like, they were just redoing people's tattoos. And it was like, oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Oh no,
I
yeah, like that's
honestly didn't think tattoos was such a big deal, but
no, but for that community, yeah, it's huge.
maybe I should get like a Crimson Omen tattooed on my forehead or something. Then I could really be a Gears head.
Yeah, yeah.
See what I did there.
But let's pull back a little bit from Gears. Let's talk about. I don't want to rush too fast through all the titles. Like Dead or Alive 4 made a huge impact with me and my friends. We played a ton of that that Christmas. Well, after Christmas. So it came out on the 29th of December. But we were big Dead or Alive 3 fans from the Xbox 360. And I know it was on Dreamcast and everything else before that. But it was one of the best looking games at the time, without a doubt. Like that was probably, for in the launch window, the best looking game graphically, I think.
And they had the Spartan in it, not Master Chief.
Yeah,
it was a
they
Spartan.
had Maria, or I forgot who was the Spartan's name was, but she had a name.
Mm.
But then came out another fighter that completely trounced pretty much everything graphically we've ever seen. I think it was the first real big push, and it was from EA Chicago. Fight Night Round 3 looked fan-freaking-tastic. And this game was a PlayStation 3 game. It was like all like hyped up as a PS3 only game and all this stuff, and that's how they were marketing it. And then it launched at the same time on 360. And
It came out on 360 first.
Yeah, because the PS3
version was a year later,
right?
I think.
Yeah.
But what got me about that, I think, is I didn't buy it because I'm not much of a boxing fan, but I remember playing the demo because it just looked so good. Like, and it had all like the sweat beads and all the stuff, and then it had like the slow motion replays where you punch them and you see all like the cheeks move. I mean, it was a bit exaggerated, but it still looks. It looks great. I don't know how it holds up. Probably still looks great now, to be honest. But I remember that being quite a big deal.
Yeah.
Was that February 2006? I think it might have been.
Fight Night?
Yeah.
Yeah, February 20th.
And then.
Or no, wait a second. Is that North? That's North America. Came out in March in Europe.
Sorry. And then. The next game must have been Ghost Recon Advanced Warfighter. Next big game.
Oh, unless you're a Burnout fan.
Nah, I'm not a Burnout fan. Let's talk about Ghost Recon. That game was amazing. So here's the story. My internet stopped working for about 2 months between January, and I was bricking it because all my friends that I play online with were going to buy Ghost Recon, and I didn't want to be left behind. And they finally fixed it the day before it came out. And I played that game so much. Like the multiplayer had like the co-op campaigns, and I was in like a little clan back in the day. Yes, I was in a multiplayer clan. Shocking times. And the campaign was really good. Like they felt very different. But the campaign I thought was great, and then the multiplayer was really good as well. I just like that game was just phenomenal. It looked great, and I think it did really well for them on the Xbox 360 as well. That kind of became their sort of lead thing. But did you ever play Graw? That's recorded Graw.
Yeah, my brother was a big Tom Clancy fan. But like, I was more of a Rainbow Six 3 guy. Like Peanut, like that was my jam. And so like Vegas and oh my god, those games took up so many hours of my life.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna be honest. I wanted to kind of drag back because this was the first time, and not to go all the way back to Fight Night, but this is the first time like demos were really just available all the time for download, and it was a big thing on 360. Like we had all the demos for all arcade games, no matter what, and then we had a Fight Night Round 3 demo before anything. And I remember taking that demo and taking my 360 over friends' houses so they could check out Fight Night before it came out. And it was just the most hyped game of all time. And I don't know if you remember the carrying cases you could buy, Steve. I had a Gears of War Xbox 360 carrying case for my 360 so I could take it over to friends' houses. I just put the picture up in chat. Or I'll up in the show. You'll see it in a minute.
Jesus Christ, you still got that?
No, I think my cousin has it, actually, because he was transferring his 360 around, and I had sold mine at the time. And I was just like, yeah, you can, because, you're pulling it around. But it would fit, like, controllers, all your HDMI cables, the power brick, the console. It was all designed to sit in that box. It was awesome.
Wow.
And it was Gears of War.
Jesus.
I just loved it. I really did. It was the most amazing box, and it had this rough. It felt like a Gears of War box. It didn't feel. It didn't feel like it was soft or cuddly or like it was just like this hard case with like fucking metal around it. You snapped it together. You lugged it around. It felt like you were Marcus Phoenix with your console. It was awesome.
The sort of thing that. The sort of thing that Cliff would have designed himself for Gears.
I was so stoked to have it. I remember buying it at GameStop and being so happy with it the whole time. But yeah, I rocked that nonstop because I would take my 360 everywhere. I really did. But yeah, playing Fallout with friends and like convincing people to buy the 360 over the PS3. Because I remember going to a friend's house, they were playing PS2 games. They were playing Fight Night Round 2, and then it was like, oh yeah, this game's amazing. And I was like, well, have you seen the, Xbox 360 version? Fight Night Round 3? And they were like, no. Popped some controllers in their hands, showed them that it was like $200 cheaper to buy a 360, and next thing you know it, bam, more 360 users. And it just, I think, not to get into present day stuff, but I think that's what Microsoft needs to really get back to. Like that. They have to make their fans door-to-door salesmen by giving more value than ever before, right out of the gate. Yeah,
well, they need cool games to showcase that. Not that they haven't had cool games. I think next year would be good for that.
Yeah.
I really hope that Quantum Break is something that people. Because it's a Remedy game, and Remedy have never made a bad game, and I think if they need that to be the start of people turning around saying, "Oh, hey, not like The Last of Us." Obviously, they're not going to sell like The Last of Us did, I suspect. But that was a game that everyone's like, "You've got to play this," and that was something like that. And the same with Gears of War back in 2006. I think the same with Halo 3, maybe even Mass Effect. It was those big games. You've got to play this. And I think that's what they need. And also, I think they've had some really good games. I mean, if you look at talk about eye candy, like Rise looked really great. Sunset Overdrive had a nice art style. Their games this year look great as well. But I don't know, I think there's just something extra that they need that perhaps next year will give them, like a must-have sort of title.
Yeah. Or like they need to bring back the Gears of War carrying case. I think that's what they need, Steve. I think the Xbox One needs... Because the carrying case would have to be fucking huge for an Xbox One. But
Jesus, I dread to think how big a carrying case with Xbox One would need to be. It wouldn't be a carrying case; it would be a suitcase.
yeah,
It would be a
it'd be
suitcase.
luggage at that point. But wouldn't you want to carry around a billboard of Gears of War? You personally, I know you would.
Well,
And you'd feel good about it too, because it would say Gears of War. It'd all be made of fucking metal, so it'd be a heavy ass case anyway.
I'd probably have to go to the gym before I start using that.
Well, you
Next
might not
year-
have to go to the gym. just lug this damn carrying case around.
Next year, Gears 4. There's going to be a special console. The question is Slim going to be out before it? I reckon I could end up being... If there's like a Slim Xbox One with Gears of War 4, like special edition, Microsoft are going to be tugging on my heartstrings there. That could be tough for me to resist. I managed to resist all the 360 stuff, like the special 360 and the controllers and stuff. But I reckon next year, that could put me over the edge. Did you ever play Far Cry Instincts Predator?
Yes, I did.
Dustin?
I played a lot of that. I wanted to hit the outfit though before we.
Oh yeah,
That's
sure,
it.
go.
Did you ever play the outfit?
I did. I don't think I finished it. I think it was fun at first, and then it got really frustrating, and then I was just like, "No, I'm not finishing this."
No, but it was a cool, you had like a multiplayer game where you could just drop fucking things out of the sky and just have awesome battles and multiplayer. I think it was and honestly, I think it was the first MOBA in a sense, because it was a really cool idea, and I think it doesn't get enough credit for what it did in games, because I think that was one of the games that was a building block for way later in the generation with MOBAs. Because of what it was doing, but yeah, it didn't. I don't think it really even sold gangbusters. It was it was a standard multiplayer game. I know Jason absolutely loved it. He was so happy about it and played the ever-living crap out of it. But yeah, I can understand anybody's hesitation on that game, without a doubt.
Yeah.
But I think you skipped over probably the biggest game at the time was Elder Scrolls Oblivion. Came out on March 20th.
Was it much? I wasn't sure when it came out in that time.
Yeah,
That must have
came
been.
out before Far Cry.
I've never played it. I got a dual pack with that and Fallout 3 like 2 years ago, but I've not played it.
Yeah.
That was to us. I hated Morrowind with a passion. I just hated it, so I never got around to it. I mean, I fucking love RPGs now, so maybe I need to.
Remember, you can
Yeah,
follow
yeah.
Steve on Twitter at Steve Rules. Just throwing it out there. Throwing it out there.
Well,
Don't
get
send the
people
hate mail to me.
to slate me.
Oh no, just people love Morrowind and Oblivion. I wasn't a big Oblivion fan either, to be honest with you. I know that was one of the most beloved games of its time, though. People loved Oblivion and Morrowind, and there's just those games always do insane Bethesda games, period. But hey, another Elder Scrolls game is coming. You know it, I know it.
2019 at the rate that they're going.
Yeah.
Maybe 2018 if we're lucky.
But you wanted to get back into Far Cry Instincts. And Far Cry Instincts, to me, was insanely awesome because of the world multiplayer building.
Yeah, the map editor.
Yeah, it was so freaking cool. And it was the first time we really saw anything that complex on a console. I think that Tony Hawk at the time was doing some world building stuff.
Yeah, they've had Creator Skate Park for a few years, but I think this was. I don't recall. I don't know
Changing
what
terrain and
what was it American Wasteland, the first one on 360.
Yes.
I don't recall that, and then afterwards it was. I can't remember now, but I don't remember them having big sort of sharing options. Whereas this, you could I think you could share your levels for Far Cry sort of all over the internet and all that sort of thing.
Yeah.
That
Yeah,
was,
there was nothing else other than American Wasteland at the time.
yeah.
I just
What was
looked through.
What was the year after?
Let's see.
Was
I
it
don't know if
something
I'll be able to
8?
find. It doesn't give me a link to a sequel.
There's definitely one after that. I can't remember when they stopped them, but
Like American Wasteland just didn't sell well, if I remember right. It just it did okay, but it was nothing fantastic.
it was their COD at the time.
Yeah.
That's what it was. They just sort of switched out Tony Hawk's for Call of Duty in the end, and I mean, to be fair, they've done quite well to get like Skylanders quite
Oh,
big.
that's right. So Tony Hawk Project 8 came out November 7th.
Yeah, I think it's that one I played. I don't remember
2006.
liking that.
Yeah. That one completely bombed, if I remember correctly. Like, it's just people were done with Tony Hawk games.
Yeah. That's a shame. Those games are really good, but I mean, you can
You know
play
what came after 2 days later after Tony Hawk Project 8?
Skate.
No.
Oh.
2 days later came the best sim of all of last generation. I want you to guess. It's made by Rare. I'll give you a hint.
Viva Pinata.
Yes, it did. Viva Pinata's so fucking good. So good. But we'll get back to that in a little bit because there's so much other stuff to cover. But Viva Pinata, I love I should turn around and just start playing Viva Pinata now.
There was a couple of things that were missed from launch, actually. That we'll talk about PGR3
Yeah.
and another bizarre title in Geometry Wars Retro Evolved. PGR3 that game looked great.
Yes, it did.
I think it was funny because Microsoft back then had part of the rules were that you could not make sub 720 games. Like third-party publishers, they had to be 720p. But ironically, I believe at least PGR3 and Perfect Dark Zero were not 720p. They were upscaled, and there was always this aliasing issue. But it was really funny that Microsoft, I'm pretty sure it's true that they insisted on that, but yeah, two of their own launch titles didn't use it. But it still looked fantastic.
Yeah, it was one of the best looking games for a long time.
Cars
game wise,
shiny and the tracks were great. I mean,
what were they competing with? Ridge Racer 6? I mean, who fucking gave two shits? Like,
I've still got that. That was a great game. Although that didn't
PGR was just. It set the standard to me for arcade racers. Like, it was awesome.
There was also, what was the Need for Speed that year?
Most Wanted.
The original Most Wanted, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Jesus. And that was funny because that was at a time when like FIFA wasn't anywhere near as big as it is now, and Need for Speed was always like the highest selling game in the UK for like years. It was that case, and now it's like, this reboot comes out and just no one gives a shit.
No.
It's like 2 weeks after launch, and it's already like heavily discounted, even on digital stores. Like Microsoft and Sony are just like, we're just going to shop 40%.
Yeah.
But no, PGR3 was great, and Geometry Wars, I put so many hours into that game.
Yeah, that was kind of a revolutionary game that came out for arcade. It really pushed. I hate to call it an indie game because it's not an indie game, but it pushed that scene, and it kind of made the way for cheap games to come out.
Yeah, smaller games.
Yeah.
Funny thing was, Bizarre wanted to make it free, and Microsoft said no. They said, well, what's the cheapest that we can sell it for? And they said, 400 Microsoft points, because that was $5. Quite why they had the Microsoft point system at 400 points being $5, I don't know. And that worked out at £3.40, I believe. That's the best £3.40 I've ever spent. That game was phenomenal. It was so fun, and it had like the classic mode and the retro evolved mode, and it was just phenomenal. I loved it. I put so many hours into that.
All right, now let's skip back to kind of where we were. Talk about demos again too. Like I remember when Dead Rising's demo came out and playing that first mall level over and over and over again. That was so amazing. In the game, did you enjoy the original Dead Rising? Were you a
I
fan?
liked the demo, but I didn't buy it at launch. It took me a few years after to play it, I think. But the demo was really good, and I think it really showcased what they were trying to do. Because you had like that section of the mall, and you could, you had all the weapons and
Yeah,
stuff.
then you got to you got to like mess around with mixing like foods together, and you were picking up different weapons, and it was enough zombies on screen, which was impressive for the time. Like you have to remember, most games except for Cameo, like you didn't see many characters on screen at the same time. Like almost every game was pretty bare bones when it came to what was going on.
Yeah, well, I think it took the sort of HD era took a long time for developers to get used to. And it's funny, there was always this talk about how it was sort of Xbox 1.5 and stuff, and then it was even funnier sort of when the PS3 came out and developers they just couldn't wrap their head around that architecture, and all the games were just most of
Well,
them were
the
a mess.
architecture, not to rip on them, it was the hardware wasn't as good as what the 360 hardware was. The GPU was nowhere near as good, and the cell processor was just ungodly dumb for a video game console. But because it was a priority thing, they had big discounts on it, so that helped. But they would have been way better off going with like PowerPC or something more generic for them, like something developers know how to use, and they wouldn't have to research all kinds of other crazy. I think that was one of their worst mistakes, was going with the cell processor for the PS3, because I think it was cost prohibitive by the end of it.
Yeah, well, that was a funny thing. Ubisoft did when the PS4 and Xbox One came out. They had this tech demo where they talked about the processors in the next gen consoles and the 360 and PS3, and they talked about what you could get out of them without. I don't know if it was, obviously there was some optimization, but it wasn't like without trying to sort of really squeeze them. And you could get like 30 characters on screen with the 360 and like 100 I think it was 99 on PS4, 108 on Xbox One, and then the PS3 was like 130. It's even more powerful a processor than what we've got now, but it just took so much effort to just get what they were trying to
make
do
it
out
work.
of it.
Oh no, yeah, because it's like, oh, we have what was it, 9 SPUs that were gonna do all this work, and it's like the development for that didn't exist yet. Like the all multi-threading was just like people don't realize the 360 was so revolutionary for when it came out. It was beyond pretty much any GPU. The closest matching GPU came out a year after the 360 did, because of what its GPU was doing. But CPU wise, don't get me wrong, the Cell is a beast of a CPU if you know how to make it work. But it's still like this. It's not worth the effort. It just isn't, and it hurt it through almost the whole generation for what it was. It just.
And it's, look at their first party studios and like things like The Last of Us. They, the first parties did get really great results from it, but I remember, they can do that because they only have one piece of hardware to work for, so all of their money goes onto understanding that. Whereas, I mean, there was a third party that I think recently came out and said, look, the problem with the PS3 was not necessarily specifically its capabilities, but it was just the amount of money that it took to get it out of that was just ridiculous. I remember there's like, sort of not trying to skip along too far, but when Far Cry 2 was in development, and they said we've got like 2 people porting this to 360 and like 14 on the PS3 version.
Yeah.
Because that was just, that was
people
what they
knew how to
needed.
work with PowerPC. Like Apple was leaving PowerPC when the 360 launched, but Microsoft, at least they were able to go to like Apple developers and go, okay, this is how you run on PowerPC. This is how you run, on what was it? What were those processors called at the time, Steve? I'm blanking on it. Not x86. I'm blanking. I'll think it'll pop in my head later. But there was a ground to actually stand on and go, this is how the future of gaming is going to work. While Sony was kind of like, well, look, this is extremely powerful and you could do it, but it requires, it's called in-order processing instead of random. And it was like, but you're going to have to figure out you're going to have to make sure that every single spew, you tell them what to do, when to do it. And then after that, you're going to have to make sure that they don't talk over one another, because then the actual the processor, the main core, is not going to know what the hell's going on, and it just didn't make sense. While the 360 was more of it had essentially 6 cores, because it had 6 threads, but it had 3 cores and 2 threads per core. So you had 6 essential threads that could be running at any time, so it wasn't like this massive advantage that the PS3 had over the 360 processor-wise on the CPU. But then most games last gen ended up becoming GPU bound. And what was it? They had the RSX in the for GPU. I think that's what it was called, and that just killed it. Like it was just way too underpowered to compete at the time. Because I remember the PS3 having issues with, like, it didn't have an internal scaler of some sort, and you would have games running, like, wouldn't work on certain TVs depending on what game you played, because the resolution wouldn't automatically scale. Because you got to remember, at the beginning of this generation, 1080i was a standard thing on TVs. You would have 720p, 1080i, and on the rare sense, 1080p. And it was this big, bouncing around of what resolution are you going to have, and will your console support it? Well, the 360 would automatically scale to whatever resolution your TV had. Because at first, the 360 didn't even do HDMI. They did what was it? It's
Component.
Is it component? Yeah, they did component.
Yeah, that's what I used. Yeah, there wasn't until they released the Elite console with was it 120 gig hard drive in 2007, shortly before Halo 3 came out, that they actually added in a HDMI.
Yeah, but actually, and still to this day, component looks amazing because you're still getting the whole resolution. It was just an analog signal, so as long as you had good cables, you were going to get it just as good as a picture as HDMI. So it didn't make really much of a difference. But wow, I ranted. I'm sorry.
There was something else they did in 2006 and 2007 as well, was the Bringing It Home at E3. They had demos of unreleased games.
Yeah.
And there was the demo of...
Didn't Saints Row have a demo? Or no, that was...
that was closer to launch, but they had the demo of Lost Planet.
Yeah, that's right. That was awesome.
And that came out in like the January or something. That was a great demo. I think that really helps. And like, there are lots of titles that I think it's funny how nobody really wants to do demos anymore. But back then, I think there were a few titles that really got sold on demos.
Like Dead Rising wouldn't have sold anything without the demo.
It's funny. I know that this is skipping on a lot, but there was a game that I thought was going to bomb. And then I don't remember them announcing a demo. I think they just released it, and I'm sure that demo is the reason why it sold. And that game is BioShock. I honestly thought that was a no-hoper. Like coming out in August 2007, and then they released the demo, and everyone loved the demo because it was a great game. I don't think there was ever any question with the sort of pedigree behind it, but I never thought that was going to do very well until they did the demo, and it was like 3 weeks before or 2 weeks before or something. Yeah, I think that really helped that.
All right. Well, there's a game we missed.
There's also games. Sorry, I skipped on.
No, but I talked about this game before the show, and I said it might have been the name of this podcast, but I like our name right now. Uno on Xbox One. Let me tell you, Steve, Uno.
That was such an event when Uno came out, and it was freaking Uno.
It was Uno. Let me tell you, that Vision camera I got in that picture right there, it played many of animes. I would take I had what were they called? The Microsoft MP3 players. I'm blanking on the name.
Zune.
The Zune. I had a Zune with like a ton of Dragon Ball Z movies, like just all kinds of random crap on it. And I would put the camera right on top of the Zune, and people would watch Dragon Ball Z while we played Uno. Because at the time, it was all about the vision camera. Like, that's all anybody cared about. It was the most awesome experience. And then you could make your dashboard turn into water, like this watery effect, as you moved around your room.
See, I never owned one. I feel like I missed out on this watery effect now.
Yeah, you did.
I don't know.
It was awesome. And it worked for, like, forever. They always had the water effect in the background dash. They always allowed you to do it. But people would walk through the room. You had a water effect one, and then you had one with like dots that would get bigger as somebody would walk in front of it. So you could see their outline in the dots. It was so dumb but awesome. I'll just never forget. On my 21st birthday, I ended up drinking for 3 days straight, and the only thing we ever did was sit there on the vision camera playing Uno, drinking nonstop. And on the end of the third day, I'm sitting in there like these 3 guys like watching me and my friend drink, and I had a bottle of dry gin that I didn't like, but it was pretty much a full bottle, and I ended up chugging it on Uno on the camera.
Jesus.
Let me tell you, Uno was my game. Okay, Uno was my game before Minecraft. That was my bullshit. I just need to sit back and relax game. But you can't mention Uno without mentioning penises. Because, wow. Uno was chat roulette before there was chat roulette.
Yeah,
it really
definitely
was. It was awful. And then you would feel bad because there was a million kids on there. And then there was, I think, meatspin.com at that point was up.
Jesus.
If I remember right. So that was the thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was just awful. It was just awful.
All those poor children that are now adults and probably scarred in therapy. The things that I saw whilst trying to just play a simple game of Uno.
I was sitting there trying to drink my brains out, and I accomplished that. But Uno helped me. Saints Row. Did you like the original?
I did. I remember there was we have like this shop that just sells computers called PC World, which is probably given by the name, but never mind. And I remember about the week it came out, they sold it for £30. I mean, most games were going at sort of 40, 45 at the time. And obviously, I know I was 16 at the time, so I can get it. So I got my dad to go and buy it for me. And that was a game I was amazed about. I remember when the demo came out and everyone was making this big deal about the fact that you could hear the radio in the car after you'd gotten out of the car. And that was like just this huge deal. It's like, oh my god, the realism of this. You get out the car and you can still hear the radio. Oh jeez, that was shocking.
Yeah.
Just how much of a big thing that was. That was a big game for them back then. I think they drew these sort of GTA comparisons, but I thought it was really good. That was a game I liked. The multiplayer was like literally the worst I've ever played, but the sort of single player itself was a really good game back in 2006.
All right, now there was I don't know. This game might be an awesome game to bring back on backwards compatibility. Phantasy Star Universe. Were you for it, against it? How'd you feel? Did you ever play it?
I did not.
Me neither.
I didn't realize that came to 360, to be honest.
Yes, it did. Came out on October 25th, 2006.
You know what was? I think it was September. It was 99 Nights.
Yeah.
And that was their big Japanese new IP. It was made by the guy who made Lumines. Tetsuya Miyaguchi or something. The guy who made Lumines. I'm pretty sure it was him. Did you ever play that? It was like a hack and slash.
No. I mean, I played a lot of Lumines, but I've never played that.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, Tetsuya Mizuguchi. That was close. Yeah, Q Entertainment and Fantagram. It didn't review very highly. um, but that was like that. Oh, it came out in April in Japan, but it didn't hit until August in North America and September in Europe. But I remember that was a big, and they announced that with like Blue Dragon and Lost Odyssey,
Yeah.
and that was like a big part of their sort of push. Um, yeah, that was. I remember one of my friends fucking loved that game, but I never really got into it, to be honest.
All right, moving along because we're getting close to the big game that you want to talk about. Fear. Fear was a huge game for a while there. People love Fear. Never was a big fan though, personally. You had Blitz the League. And then on November 7th of 2006, a game came out which ushered in what people considered the first next-gen game at the time. Gears of War.
Oh my word!
It was without a doubt probably the biggest release on 360, or it just dominated everything. This was the first time we had that cinematic trailer. We had, well, not cinematic trailer. The in-asset. Oh, how do you? Technically, it was in-game, but you could never play the scene in-game trailer of Marcus Phoenix.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Running. Yeah. It's weird because they spent all the money. They wanted to, Peter Moore wanted to make sure without a doubt that you knew exactly, you were going to get exactly what you were saying. Like that's the game. You never played that sequence, but that was it.
Yeah.
And it was awesome.
It's funny, Peter Moore wanted and told Epic to cut the chainsaw. They're like, it's too gory, it's too gruesome. And Cliffy B was like, well, we own this, so actually we're not going to do that. Imagine if they had, and that game, it just had so many things about it. And it was the small innovations that made it better, like active reload.
Yeah.
And that's still
so good.
That still works, and it's still great. And they had the chainsaw bayonet, obviously, and that was really cool. And remember the first time people would walk around and multiplayer at the very beginning, there was two things. There was chainsawing and grenade tags. Like before it became about the shotguns, that's what it was. Chainsaw and grenade tagging people. That was just it for like 6 months. And then people were like, oh, actually shotgun is probably the best way to play this. And that was just, and like the multiplayer, it wasn't standard multiplayer either. Ironically, they almost cut the multiplayer. They had like a small team working on it, and they were like, oh, I don't really know if this is very good. And I think it was like 70% of development went on the campaign, and the rest was on the multiplayer. But they kept it, and it was, and it was great, and it was enjoyable. But it wasn't, they didn't have team deathmatch. They had, like Warzone and Execution, and then they added like Annex later in a patch. But it's funny because they did the map packs as well, but Epic were really upset at Microsoft because they'd come from a background of PC stuff where you just give away content. And Microsoft were like, well, actually, no, we want to charge money for it. And I remember Epic talking about how unhappy they were about that.
Mm-hmm.
And then the second that the money flowed in, I mean, you look at the way that they ended up monetizing like the skins,
everything,
the skins on the guns and that sort of thing, and it's so hilarious that they were genuinely upset about that back in 2006, and then what it sort of descended to in the end was just hilarious. But that was
because at the end it turned into, and thankfully today with like Halo 5, it's you sell the skins, and that way you can do map packs and everything for free. The model keeps changing, and I think it's finally getting to the better, and I hope more games are like Halo 5 with how they do it from now on. Because Battlefront is fucking atrocious right now with its DLC. Some have gotten better, some have gotten worse. But
no, that was, and they were like the co-op, and I think that was probably what made it as much the chainsaw was the fact that you could play it with your friend in the campaign. Like that's what people liked. That's what that was what was really important to them. was the campaign card. That was a huge thing. And then when obviously later on they went up to like 4 players and stuff, that was huge. It's just huge.
All right. Well, we're coming up on the next game. This game has made me feel so. I've never felt shy asking for a game at GameStop before. And no, we're not talking about Dead or Alive Extreme 2.
Did you buy that?
No, I didn't buy Extreme 2, no.
Alright, good.
My friend did, though. It was fucking hilarious, because he was such a huge Dead or Alive fan, he wanted to support them any way he could. But I just couldn't overcome the thought of buying that game. But on December 9th, or no, not December, November the 9th, 2006, Reviva Pinata! Do you remember the case that game came in?
It had like the sort of little plastic curvy thing, wasn't it?
It wasn't plastic. It was like a cardboard case. It was the most flimsy, cheap, 3-year-old like friendly case of all time. It felt like you got it out of a Burger King Happy Meal. I'm not trying to be mean. It just did. And then it had a plastic cover, of course. But I remember walking up to the counter with a copy of it in my hand, holding this stupid case, and be like, I want to buy this game. And then getting it home and playing probably 100 hours, 120 hours of that game. Like, just loving every possible second of it. It was one of my favorite games of all time. It was such a... I guess it wasn't a knockoff of anything. But it kind of allowed you to build the level, and it was just subsystem after sub. It was so good at what it was trying to do. And I got to name my worms, Steve. I got to name my worms.
What did you name them? Can you remember?
I had the Three Stooges. I always gave them dumb names. I don't remember all the stupid names I'd give them. But yes, that was one of my favorite games at the time. I just remember people going off on Rare because that's not the Rare they remembered, but Viva Pinata was probably one of the best games Rare has ever produced. And I really mean that. I think Viva Pinata is one of their key titles of their library that they've ever made. It's a fantastic game. It's so good that it actually ended up coming out on the fucking DS.
Yeah, and they did the PC port as well, didn't they?
Yeah, they did a Viva Pinata Pocket Paradise. It came out on the Nintendo DS. You know, you gotta give them credit. I'm looking at screens of the Pocket Paradise, and that shit looked awful.
Yeah.
But yeah, then Extreme 2 came out like 2 days later.
I was never really into that. And the DIA Extreme 3 is coming out in February or something. But it's not coming out over here because they fear backlash.
It's too sexist.
Although it does seem like one of the problems that people have is that it's supposed at heart it was actually supposed to be a volleyball game, but someone said that they spent like 15 minutes trying to look through screenshots and couldn't find a single mention of the fact that you can play volleyball in it.
Yeah. Well, they've always been volleyball games, so it's not like if you're a fan of that franchise, you know it's a volleyball game.
Yeah. And even Nitagaki actually recently were like kicked off about the fact that they're not bringing it out in Europe. He wasn't happy, but that was a surprising game that was sort of exclusive at the time. I know that Team Ninja were close to Microsoft.
But I think they needed to. With the Extreme 3, I think they should just make it digital, and that way they get rid of some of this backlash of why not release it. I mean, if you don't release it in stores, it kind of says, yeah, we know there'll be backlash, but here's it digitally, and enjoy it. And if retailers don't want it, don't worry about it.
Yeah,
it's not like it's going to sell many copies.
Especially as there is an English version as well.
Yeah,
like already, but yeah, I don't know.
Release it as a Xbox Live Games with Gold game.
Jesus.
All right, there's another game coming up that I wanted to talk about it because I was so excited for this game because of the demo, Steve. And this demo let me down. It let me down, Steve. I was so stoked. No, Crackdown was epic, and that was one of the most amazing games. Superman Returns, Steve.
Oh Jesus! Is that the EA game?
Yes, the EA Tiburon or whatever. Tiburon. Let me tell you. I was so stoked for that game because I was reading at the time Official Xbox Magazine and like everything else. They were all talking about. They were like, "Yeah, it's a full city. You can fly around to a lake. You can freeze the water, go under it, pick it up, set it on a building, and like put out fires. All that stuff works." And I was just like fucking buying into it, left and right, Steve. Like I was like, man, this is finally they're gonna make up for that N64 game. I can't fucking wait to play Superman Returns. This is gonna be fucking epic. And then, Steve, the demo came out, and it was like, man, this has a lot of fucking potential. This is really cool. It actually feels like you're flying. The flying didn't suck in Superman Returns, without a doubt. It actually felt really good. Like, that is one of the things that this game actually accomplished, was it felt good to fly around. And then, Steve, then I bought the game. And let me tell you how much I played it for about 4 to 5 hours. I took my copy, and I sold it. I was like, I'm done. And they only offered me $25 after paying $60 for it.
Jesus.
The day it came out, I traded it in, and they instantly put the value down to nothing.
I remember enjoying the demo for that, but I was always like, yeah, I don't... That was when EA was sort of... Yeah, they had like so much licensed stuff. Like they had like Lord of the Rings as well, and they had all this stuff, and it was, and they had like Batman.
I got something to show you, Steve. I got something to show you. It's in arm's reach.
Oh, what's
You
this?
won't believe what I got. You're gonna see it way later than everybody else because he's not actually getting my camera feed. Oh my god! Look at this. My brother bought it for me as a gag. I have a copy of Superman Returns, Steve, in my hands right now.
Why?
I told you my brother bought it for me as a gag because he knew I bought this game. It was like $2, so he bought it for me a couple Christmases ago.
You should have
And
got
ever
him
since
to
then,
give you $2.
I got a copy of this awful Superman game, and I've never returned it. Like I've never went to go sell it or anything. I've kept it. I do not have an Xbox 360 to play it on.
Oh.
I hope this comes to backwards compatibility because I will totally fucking play it. I will pick up where I left off, Steve. I will beat Superman Returns on the Xbox One if they make it backwards compatible. I'm saying it now. If this game goes backwards compatible, I will stream the whole game.
Oh no.
And beat it.
Right, everyone in chat will hold you to that. I will hold you to that.
Oh no, I know you will. That's why I'm saying it now. I will play this whole fucking game, and it's going to be amazing. Look at it. Look at it. Now I want to make one stipulation. One stipulation. If this game is completely fucking broke on backwards compatibility, then I think that's I'll play as much as I can, but I might not finish it. But as long as it works, as good as Gears of War works right now, which is not great, but it works.
Oh,
I will beat it.
Which Gears of War?
The worst running Gears of War, because I think they're all playable.
Oh, okay.
You know what I mean?
Okay.
You know what I mean, though. Like, if it's like, I'm not going to cop out, but like, well, the frame rate goes down to 25 this one. No, that's not going to be the excuse. If it's like just totally unfucking playable at some point, I will keep chugging it along and try to beat it, and if I can't, I'll just give up. Prophecy's calling me out. Prophecy's like, I'll hold you to it. This game right here, I got the fucking disc. I'm being dead serious. Look at that. Superman Returns.
And then once you finally complete it, you have to stand up on stream
and snap it.
You take the disc out and you just snap it in half.
I don't know if I want to do that.
We can buy another copy first.
Okay.
You could hide it from the. You could buy like a second copy for like $1 somewhere, and then whichever one's in worse condition, you just snap that one. They'll never know. You'll know.
I think just from saying this, and if Aaron or Phil or anybody from Xbox team is watching, they're going to make sure it goes backwards compatibility just to fuck with me. I'm telling you. Because EA said they're all in with backwards compatibility. So there's a chance that this is coming.
But it's licensed, and they don't have the license anymore.
Oh, that's true. Nah,
So
I got a chance. I might not have to play this. But I think there's an equally good chance that this is one of those random ass fucking games that comes in like one of the updates. I really feel that way. And if I do get a 360, I'll pop it in. I don't know if I'll beat it, but I'll play it.
Oh, no. If you buy another 360, if you have any way of playing that game, your obligation is to play it and finish it. It will be Superman week.
Alright, wait a second. Let's find out something real quick. How much is an Xbox 360 selling for?
Oh, Jesus.
I'm just curious. We're going. Look,
I'm still
this
like
is the 360
$200.
show, okay? Xbox 360. I'll buy a used 360. I got a nice blue controller. The chrome blue one. Yeah, that shit's fucking on point. Game systems. I can get a pre-owned Xbox 360, a slim, for $129.
Oh, that's too much.
I could buy a refurbished black with wireless controller for $79.
Oh, that's not bad.
But I don't think that has a hard drive.
Oh. Do you really want to spend all that money on Superman? Well, no, okay, what you should do is do it in one session. You don't need a hard drive.
I get a 320 gig Star Wars one for $119.
Well, that's not bad.
If I could, I would get the Gears of War one, if I could find one. Just throwing it out there. Oh, the Halo 3 green console looked pretty freaking awesome.
Did it? I don't know.
I liked it. I really did. The etching and stuff, I mean, it was green. Don't get me wrong. It was kind of a bland green, but it was green. I was kind of just hoping to find a Gears of War console. Oh, they got one. Oh my god, it's so tempting to get one back.
Save your money, Dustin.
$120, Steve. Built-in Wi-Fi, Xbox Live, 320 gigabyte hard drive. It's Connect ready. I could buy Connect, Steve.
Jesus.
I could buy Connect.
Connect.
What other? But does this come with a controller? That's my question. Gears of War games, premium refurbished. I wouldn't need a controller, but I want a Gears controller.
Yeah, surely it's got to come with a controller.
I might have to buy the Gears of War console again.
Again?
Yeah, originally that was my Slim 360 was the Gears of War version.
Oh.
It was it had the awesome power on. Like the like it had the what was the sound? I forgot what the sound was.
Was it like a chainsaw rev? Or was that the disc eject?
That's 1 second. We got to look this up on YouTube.
So what was after Superman Returns? Was that
for Amazing Games?
Oh, it must have been...
Oh, where was it?
There was Lost Planet. I bought Lost Planet twice, the original and Lost Planet Colonies, and never finished it.
Star Trek Legacy was an awesome game. Just throwing it out there.
Was it?
Yeah, it wasn't a bad game. It was a decent freaking game. Gears of War console.
Crackdown, that was a game that had a demo. I think that demo, actually no, the demo clearly didn't sell it. What sold it was the Halo 3 beta. But
alright, Steve, you'll be able to hear this. 1 sec.
Okay.
That's the power button.
Oh, I can't hear it.
Oh, you didn't hear it?
No.
Yeah, the disc tray was a chainsaw. I know that's the worst way of doing that, but the sound's kind of low, so you probably didn't hear it.
Nice. So stick the link in chat and I'll get it up and listen to it later.
I'm gonna buy me a Gears of War Xbox 360.
You're actually going to do it.
Oh no, I gotta see what kind of money I have going on right now. That might be my Black Friday gift to myself. Oh my god, I want a Gears of War console again.
There'll be one next year, without doubt.
It was such a cool console, though. It was so awesome.
Mm.
Like, one of my favorite limited editions of all time. Alright, I'm sorry. We'll get back to actually talking about video games and stuff and move past Superman Returns. Then, like, the next day... No, the same day, Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six Vegas came out. That was an awesome game.
That was good. There's another game that I'm pretty sure had a demo.
Yeah.
But it was really good the way that they did like the cover system. I think you held like left trigger and it went third person.
Mm-hmm. Pimp My Ride had a game. I'm trying to actually get through some of these because we're really early on in the list. We're only in 2007. We're just touching it. Lost Planet Extreme Condition. Were you a big Lost Planet fan?
As I said, I bought it and the Colonies edition and never actually finished it. But I always sort of wish I had done. So it's a shame where that franchise sort of went. They sort of mismanaged that.
Then the game that everybody bought for beta access, but ended up being the most amazing game, came out February 20th of 2007. Crackdown. Nobody, I think, bought that game for the videos of the game or anything about that game. It was nothing but Halo fever.
Mm.
And then everybody was shocked on just how fucking amazing that whole experience was the whole time. And then what was like 6 months later, Keys to the City came out, and that was an epic.
And that was another one of their sort of co-op games like Gears that they were sort of pushing through. And they really helped, I think, make that sort of what it is today. They just put it in a bunch of games, and it was really well done in all of them. They're all successful games. I mean, Halo ended up doing the same thing with their online co-op, and
All right, moving on. I'm still looking at 360s. I'm sorry. So terrible. Where are we at? I'm kind of going to skip some. Ghost Recon Advanced Warfighter 2.
that was good. It wasn't as good as the first one, but I thought the campaign was better.
And then the game that kind of started everything and changed the generation a couple years in, Guitar Hero 2. Came out April 3rd, 2007. Plastic instruments were everywhere. Fucking Harmonix had made probably one of the biggest games of all freaking time at that point.
And that was a game that Microsoft actually passed on to publish, for what it's worth, and Activision published it.
Phil Spencer specifically passed on it.
Yep, silly Phil.
It was his biggest regret.
Yeah, I bet it was his fucking biggest regret.
That spawned like non-stop love for that franchise. And just think where we would be. Like, I think Guitar Hero would have just turned into Rock Band. Because what was Rock Band 3 and after that and everything, that was all Activision. And who was making them at that point?
It was the people who made Tony Hawk's Neversoft.
Yeah, and they were okay, but they kind of went downhill, while Rock Band kind of just took over everything.
The only one I actually bought was Guitar Hero 3.
Oh, you never played Rock Band?
I played it. I didn't buy it myself. I quite like doing all the guitar stuff, but I think what Rock Band did well was the DLC delivery. Which was something that Guitar Hero I don't think did quite as well. And they've just brought both of them back, and people, you can see sort of the uptake on Xbox on Rock Band on Guitar Hero was better because they had like all the crap loads of DLC that they were able to bring back. But I mean, they were huge, and they were bringing out like 4 Guitar Heroes a year at one point or something silly. Whereas Rock Band sort of kept it to like the Beatles and Green Day, and then that was kind of about it. I think after Rock Band 3, they were just like, nah, this isn't worth it anymore. And then they moved on to Dance Central. So,
all right. Let's move down. Forza Motorsport 2. That came out. Turn 10. That kind of started the demise of Gran Turismo.
I had a lot of fun with that game. I enjoyed it. I played it a lot.
Yeah.
I remember I got it like stupidly cheap at launch or something. It was like £25 after like a week.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, yeah, I'll go for that. And I really enjoyed it.
Online. I don't know. It Turn 10 showed it was the first 60 frames per second game, right? Because the first one was 30.
Yeah.
And it was the first, it was completely locked at 60, and they just did an awesome job with it. It was 720p, we know. Replays running at 30 frames per second. That means you take off 4 points in a 10-point scale, right?
Yeah.
I'm reading the wiki for it, so I'm just with replays running at 30 frames per second. If I remember right, people docked that on Forza 5.
So the only thing about it was it's a shame that it kind of ended up, I think, killing PGR because they shouldn't have really released 2 racing games in 1 year. But
all right. What else do we got going on? Let's see.
Is it Shadowrun next?
Yeah, Shadowrun is next. I wasn't a big fan. It's all right.
I don't think I think I might have played the demo or the beta or something. I wasn't really too involved in that one.
What was it? Unreal Championship is a game I fucking hung on to when it came to stuff like that. That was my game. Shadowrun just looked dumb. But I don't think that didn't come out for much later. BioShock, August 21st, 07, timed exclusive. That was...
As I mentioned earlier about the demo, I think that was big for that game.
Yeah.
But it took off. I mean, it was a fantastic game. I borrowed my friend's copy of that, Assassin's Creed 1, and Dead Rising 1, and I've still got them here. Actually, I got the tin edition of BioShock. But that was a great game. I loved it, and also I think it was different because it didn't have multiplayer and it didn't force it, and it was just this is a story-driven game.
Mm-hmm.
It was big, and I think Microsoft really sort of helped elevate that as well.
Oh, where are we? I'm trying to actually get to this list a little bit. Halo 3 came out. Finish the fight. Steve, finish the fight.
Oh, that was just... I'm pretty sure that's still the highest selling Halo game.
Yeah.
That was just huge.
No,
that was
is
great.
it?
Yeah.
I'm trying to think, because I thought... No, I'm thinking of the non-titled ones, the numbered ones.
Reach.
Yeah. They
Reach.
still sold really good.
Well, I think what happened was that 3, Reach, and 4 all did 3.3 million in their first MPD month. But Halo 3, I think, had the least amount of time. They gradually got earlier in the month. But I'm pretty sure Halo 3 is still the highest selling one. That was just insane for them, and that was when Bungie left as well.
And then another game that I remember being... I'm kind of skipping a little bit further. This is all the way up into November. America's Army, True Soldier. Did that ever release in Europe?
I have no idea, to be honest.
It was such a huge game because it was the first game ever produced by the U.S. Army for it was like Rainbow Six, but made by it never released outside the United States, so you never got to play it. But I remember that being such a huge thing and people getting behind it because it was kind of it was way closer to Ghost Recon than anything you played before. It got away from Call of Duty and all the other stuff, and it just took a more real aspect to warfare. But it was an awesome little game. College hoops. Mass Effect, November 20th, 07. The start of an epic story. It was timed exclusive.
Wow. Yeah, because EA bought BioWare.
Yeah. But
I
wow, that
think
was a great game.
there was, to be honest, there was always something about Mass Effect that I just didn't buy it. I don't know why. I just didn't. And then I played my friend's copy, and I was like, "This is good," but I feel like the next one's going to be better or something.
Mm-hmm.
And to be honest, I never actually felt the 2 or 3 were anywhere near as good as the original.
Oh, okay.
I felt like, and this is not me sort of being bitter at sort of EA buying them or something, but I just felt like it was very clear that BioWare, even look at Dragon Age 2, like that wasn't anywhere near as good. Like I personally felt like Microsoft didn't need Mass Effect to be a third-person shooter. Like I don't believe that game would have ever had multiplayer had Microsoft still have published it. I just think that whereas EA didn't have a third-person shooter, a big thing like that. So they were like, we've got this thing that's an RPG, but with us, they tried to make it more of a shooter in the second one, and it was a good game, but people preferred the RPG, so then they tried to go back on it a bit, and I don't know. And then the ending was just god awful in the third one, and I was just, I played all 3 of them. Don't get me wrong.
It was an epic adventure.
Yeah, I felt like the first one was the best one, but they just never realised the full potential of it. I mean, they might do with Andromeda because they seem to be back to making RPGs. Like if they've played The Witcher, then they should be alright for Andromeda. Because I also wouldn't use what they did for Inquisition as anywhere near any form of tentpole for it. But
all right, well, this game came out the same day as Rock Band. I'm surprised they're 2 totally different games, but they didn't clash at all. Like both games were fucking hyped to insane proportions. I wonder which sold better. It was probably Rock Band. You think so? No, but you got to think like Harmonix had all the Guitar Hero hype behind them at the time. Plastic Instruments were kind of the biggest selling thing. I mean, it was hyped at E3. PR behind it was a fucking insane. Like it just, I don't know. Steve. I think it's.
I think in the long run, I want to
go back and look at it and see which sold better.
I think in the long run, Mass Effect probably did better, particularly given the PC version. Not obviously PS4 3 version came out in 2012, so I won't include that. But I think Mass Effect was huge at launch.
The game says 4 million units and global revenue of $600 million, with $100 million in downloadable song purchases for Rock Band.
Yeah, I think it unquestionably made more money, but in terms of unit sales, I still think Mass Effect probably did better.
But it was exclusive. That's Rock Band wasn't. That's what I'm.
Yeah.
I'm not sure, but both games were epic. Let's see. We're going to move along. Lost Odyssey came out in February 12th, 2008. You didn't play it. That was an awesome JRPG. It was like, it was kind of like a classic JRPG. It was kind of what everybody had been wanting for a long time because JRPGs had kind of fallen off a cliff at this point. But it was from the famed creator, Hironobu, I'm fucking his name.
Hironobu Sakaguchi.
Thank you.
Who I like to refer to as the Gooch.
Yeah.
There was Blue Dragon came out 6 months before that in Europe as well. I got that. It's funny, I got that with my Elite console. And that came out the same day as Stranglehold. And I was like, can I have Stranglehold set? And they said, no, you can trade Blue Dragon in and pay the difference. I was like, nah. And then I played Blue Dragon and actually I really liked it. I put like 35 hours into it. I didn't finish it. And then Lost Odyssey was just one of those games that just, I don't know, just got away from me. I just never played. So I always kind of regret that.
I'm trying to speed through to see if there's any other games we really want to hit. Viva Pinata Trouble in Paradise was an awesome sequel, but it was kind of, I hate to say more of the same, but it was better. You know, it was just more, it was more awesome Viva Pinata.
This is 2008, wasn't it?
Yeah, I'm blasting through. Like Blitz the League 2 was a big seller. Dead Space came out October 14th, 08. I was never a big Dead Space fan, though. Fable 2 was October 21st, 08.
That was fantastic. I loved
Yeah.
that. And that also, again, filled in that, it was a, big sprawling RPG, like Lionhead sort of style, and it also had co-op. That was their other thing. I thought they did well with that.
Fallout 3 came out October 28th, 08.
The game.
Fallout 3. It wasted a lot of people's hours.
That was when I started university, September 2008, and I remember I got Star Wars: The Force Unleashed. That was a good game.
November 7th, 2008. We got to play Horde mode for the first time.
Oh,
Steve.
my word.
Gears of War 2.
I bought it when I was at university. I was a poor student, and I still ordered the limited edition, and I've still got it. I'm looking at it right now, literally as I speak.
Yeah, you should get on camera and show it off for the Thanksgiving podcast.
That was a hell of a game. It's got the best campaign of any Gears of War. Gears of War 3 is the best one because of the way that it just advanced everything. But the best campaign is Gears 2, hands down. If anyone disagrees, fight me for it. You won't win. I'll beat you.
And then in March 3rd, 2009, we got Halo Wars. That's right.
That was a good game.
It was like one of the first times, honestly, that a over the top, top down strategy game worked on a controller. Because there was Halo Wars and some Lord of the Rings game that worked really well.
I actually played that Lord of the Rings game. To be honest, Halo Wars was much better. Like the Lord of the Rings game, I did feel was, it was generally how they had always tried to do RTS, which is where
But it had been refined to the point where you were like, okay, this works now. Like it was refined enough. You didn't hate it.
Yeah. No, it was good, and the way that I think that they did it was rather than having you plot bases down, they just gave you a base and you built on one sort of platform, if you know what I mean, and you could just pop all your buildings up, and then you press the triggers and grab the troops and stuff, and it was really well done. It's a shame that was Ensemble's last game, I think, and now they're making Halo Wars 2, ironically.
Yeah. No, but that's people have been requesting that. I know people joke about that game all the time. And like even Giant Bomb was like, "Who the fuck's asking for that?" A lot of people have been asking for a sequel to it because it worked very well and it was a lot of fun. The CG was awesome in it. And it was cool.
Yeah.
The demise of Tony Hawk came Tony Hawk Ride, November 17th, 2009.
God, that was garbage. It was like the plastic skateboard. Who asked for this? Who wants this?
And my favorite version of Mass Effect 2 came out January 26, 2010. I really did enjoy Mass Effect 2. It was one of my favorites. I enjoyed all three of them, I won't lie. And the ending didn't bother me because I didn't replay the game. Like, when I beat Mass Effect, I was done. Like, anybody that I understand if you played it like 3 times over to see all the different possible endings and you found out it was just a bullshit choice anyway, yes, I could see how you'd be mad. But if you just played it once, I think most people were just happy with it. But then they retconned a lot of stuff out of it, like the stations didn't blow up so that they could make a sequel. They did all kinds of other stuff. Alan Wake, May 18th. Oh, I'm sorry. Go for it.
I was just going to say, what they lacked in Mass Effect was a roadmap, and I think that's where EA failed, is that I think under Microsoft, I think they had a roadmap, and I think that they threw it out. I mean, because like, under Microsoft, you wouldn't have seen Mass Effect in 2010, Mass Effect 2. It would have been a holiday 2010 at the very earliest. But I think that's where the lack of planning got them. And I think that upset a lot of people. But Alan Wake.
Yes, Alan Wake. Console exclusive. Which I still don't understand what console exclusive means when it only came out on Windows.
Yeah, which just means it didn't come out on PlayStation or Nintendo.
Yeah, but it's like it's I don't know. It still sounds weird to me since it only like if it came out on like a Mac, then it would be maybe they should just write Microsoft exclusive
Maybe
instead of console. Yeah.
that was the game I bought the limited edition of as a poor student. Was that 2010? I bought that. The thing is, I'm not into sort of creepy and sort of horror games, so it was kind of wasn't sure what to expect. But that was a phenomenal game. I mean, it wasn't scary particularly at all. The only time I think I ever jumped was there's a bit where you go into like I think this probably happens quite often, but you go into like a little station, and you can go into the bathroom, and you walk in and you think something's going to jump out at me, and you get to the end, pick something up, and it doesn't. And then on the way back, one of the taking comes out of the toilets. That made me jump. I was not happy about that.
Yeah. Now, oh dang! I missed it. I wanted to bring up this other game. I'm totally blanking on it. Red Dead Redemption came out a couple days later. No, it came out the same day. It came out on May 18th.
Did you buy both of them?
I bought Red Dead first.
Oh, no.
Later.
Oh, Dustin.
Oh, Steve. Red Dead was probably the most stunning looking open world game at the time. Period. It just
I've still not played
the scenes. Oh my god! I haven't played it, so I don't know if it still holds up. But when I get my 360, Steve, when?
Well, I say I haven't played it. I watched my housemate play it on my 360.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not like I haven't seen it. I know what happens at the end. But he fucking loved it. He loved that and he loved Fable.
Yeah.
So.
Skipping ahead to Ninja Theory's amazing game, Unslaved Odyssey to the West.
Oh,
October 5th, 2010. Look, I was a fan. I enjoyed that game. The ending was fucking bizarre and made no sense. But the gameplay and the platforming, a lot of fun. I enjoyed every moment of it. But it just didn't sell well, and it kind of just died. Fallout New Vegas, October 19th. That was a ton of fun. I don't know. How many... Did you play a lot of that, or did you just play Fallout 3 and then kind of skip everything till 4?
I didn't play Fallout 3 until September this year. So it was just one of those games that just got skipped. I mean, as I said, when Fallout 3 came out and Fallout New Vegas came out, I was at university and I just couldn't afford to buy all these games. Mm-hmm. I think Alan Wake was like £40, but for limited edition, and that was like drinking money for a month.
Yeah.
So I just had to sort of just sort of wait. I mean, I've got New Vegas now actually, but I haven't played it. So.
All right, let's see. We're moving on. I'm trying to actually get through this list, believe it or not. Fable 3, October 26th. How did you feel? How did you feel, Steve?
My housemate played that as well. I still haven't really played it. I got it for free when it was like free on like Games with Gold when they announced it, but I've not really played it. But my housemate seemed to think it was really good. So
yeah,
power to him.
There was a big game. And I think it came out the same day, and I think it killed all Plastic Instrument games after that. Rock Band 3. There was no reason to buy another game because you could import all the songs from the last two games and all the DLC you had and have all of Rock Band 3. It had stacked up so much shit, you just didn't need anything else.
Yeah.
And no matter what guitar, if you had it for Guitar Hero guitars or Rock Band guitars, they all worked. So it was just everything you needed in one package. If you were into music games. Like Rock Band 3 was it. Let's see, moving along. Dragon Ball Z games came out, nobody cared. Call of Duty Black Ops comes out November 10th, 2010.
Still the highest selling COD as far as I can remember.
I've just never been a big Call of Duty fan. I was huge into the second one, and then after that, I was done.
The one that I played online the most was actually Call of Duty 3. I was a medic in that. I was good. Used to play that before going to college.
Oh, this is a game we could talk about. Test Drive Unlimited 2 came out, but I want to talk about Test Drive Unlimited 1 Because if you have a copy of Test Drive Unlimited 1, Steve, and you go into the manual, Jason is credited with a thank you. Because he was on their forums so much, correcting people's posts as if he was a dev, that they thanked him in the fucking manual for the game. He gets credit for it.
Go, Jason.
He was so addicted to Test Drive Unlimited. Because it was like if you've never played it before, you would drive around in an open world, and then it was one of the first games ever where like you would spawn in and out of sequences with other players. So you could it felt like an MMO where you had thousands of players playing with you, but it all just depended on who was closest to you in the server, and they would just pop in your game.
So it's a bit like The Crew.
Yeah, it was The Crew way before The Crew.
Only better, so I assume.
Oh no, like this was about 1,000,000 times better than The Crew.
Yeah, that's what I meant. The Crew was like garbage. I thought that was terrible.
Yeah. But yeah, Jason's credited in the game. You can see 4GT guy in the back of the manual, which I still find hilarious.
Does he still have a copy of that manual?
Yes, he does. I'm still running through real quick. Let's see. I mean, Crysis 2 came out. That was a pretty big game. Dead Island was pretty freaking epic from Techland on the 360. But then came out the Juggernaut game, the game that I spent hundreds of hours in Horde mode in because they had made it the best Horde mode of all time, and I can't wait to see what they do in Gears 4. But Gears of War 3 was just... It was the complete package, Steve.
I'm telling you that is one of the greatest games ever.
Yeah.
I'm saying it. If anybody wants... This is a bit like what I said with... What was that other game that I said about fighting me? Was that Gears 2? I will fight you over Gears 3. I can't remember what I said now. I will I'll get my fists out and we'll go at it. That is an amazing game. I loved every single part of that game. Horde mode is fantastic. Also, that has, in my personal opinion, and this is probably not necessarily something to celebrate hugely, the best seasons pass of any game. Like the amount of content they added in that, like the Ram Shadow was great, but they had like all the arcade mode, and you had all the Horde mode, and you had all the freaking ridiculous amount of building options, of which I've upgraded all of them to level 5, by the way. And there was all the multiplayer stuff, and it was just a ginormous gargantuan game. Like the 3-year dev cycle on that was just ridiculous. They put fucking so much in there. Cliffy B is, as far as I'm concerned, he's a god. He's a god.
All right, there's a couple games I want to run through real quick. Dead Rising 2 off the record fucking took everything great about Dead Rising and just fucking expanded it. The cars are better. It was more open, like you were running through malls instead of a mall, and it was just... I don't even know how to explain it. It was Vegas. It was Vegas, baby. All right, Steve?
I never actually played Dead Rising 2.
Oh, totally worth playing.
That was another game that my housemate loved, actually.
Oh, it was fantastic. And the multiplayer was fantastic. Because you had co-op through the whole thing. It was awesome, Steve. It was fucking epic. Forza Motorsport 4. The game that killed all other racing sims last generation, without a doubt. It had tons of cars, over 500 cars, 26 tracks. You had Top Gear stuff in it. It had Alta Vista mode for the first time. It was just slam-packed full of everything in it. It was an amazing game, and I don't think any other racing game last gen... I don't think any Gran Turismo ever competed with it. I think the Forza 4 was truly the demise of Gran Turismo. I really believe that, because it gave everything in the package. It was just right there in the being gung-ho. The Sims part of it was awesome. All the sound in the cars was amazing. And it's the reason why we have a Forza 6 right now. It's because of how well it sold. It did gangbusters, and hopefully they continue with that franchise. I hope, I don't want them to mess with it. Also, Mass Effect 3 came out that year. And that gave the ending that you love so much, Steve.
Well, yeah, was that 2012?
Yeah, is a 2012 sci-fi fiction shooter. Came out March 6th, 2012.
What else was in 2012?
The biggest game Microsoft's ever owned. Or no, well, it's technically 2011, but it came out on Xbox in 2012 on disc.
Minecraft.
That's correct. I like how they say it's timed exclusive. I mean, it's true, but they own it.
Yeah.
It's a weird game to talk about nowadays.
The foresight to see that was going to be such a big thing was, and ultimately that foresight that it was going to be big and it was worth bringing to console, and that relationship between Phil Spencer and Notch is ultimately what allowed them to buy it. Because if they hadn't tried that, I mean, would Sony have gone after it under sort of different circumstances, possibly, or would they have just tried to bring it to console? So these are all possibilities, but the fact that Microsoft saw it and they went and got it, and they got their porting house of 4J Studios who'd just done Perfect Dark and Banjo-Kazooie and Banjo-Tooie. They got them to do it. That was their next thing, and they're still doing it. And that was, did you say it was 2012?
I didn't know this. Sony actually publishes Minecraft for the PS4 and PS3 and Vita.
Yes.
I didn't know they were
do.
the publisher. I thought Microsoft would have been the publisher.
No, well, the thing is, we got to bear in mind this was sort of Sony muscling in after Microsoft had made it, helped sort of make it big, and Sony were like, oh, we want in on this. But Sony tried to get it out on PS4 launch, Minecraft, and I'm pretty sure that the reason why that didn't happen was because Microsoft basically laughed in their face and said, you honestly think, after we paid for this to exist on console, that you're then going to get it before we do?
Yeah.
No.
You're fucking out of your mind.
Yeah, and that was a big Gamescom announcement for them, and everyone was like, "Oh my god, that's huge!" And it just disappeared for like 6 months.
Yeah, well, because Microsoft showed the Xbox One logo on it and went, "We're not going to talk about this for a long time. Like, we're just not going to, we're just, it's coming." And then Sony announced it, and everybody was like, "Well, it's going to come out in PS4 before," and it was like, "No."
And then Microsoft ended up buying it.
Buy the whole thing out, yeah.
Which is, they need to make, in my opinion, they need to be doing more with it. Like on Xbox platforms.
Yeah.
Like, in terms of, like, feature sets. Like, I'm not saying that they should put the PlayStation versions down, but they need to, in my opinion, raise the Xbox version up.
Yeah, I agree.
And get sort of crossplay going and dedicated servers and stuff.
I'm still running through this list. Dead or Alive 5 was awesome. A very good Dead or Alive game. Forza Horizon came out October 23rd, 2012. Steve, did you play Horizon, the original?
I did not. I didn't buy a racing game after PGR 4.
Mm-hmm.
I think I it's not I did buy Forza 3, but I never played it. But there was a period after between PGR 4 and Forza 5. The only racing games I think I bought were Formula 1 games, and that was only like one. I was just kind of bored of them and just sort of skipped them all. So, but it's supposed to be good.
I was replying. Yeah. What would Minecraft be with cloud compute? Asked Prophecy. Prophecy, I think it would just mean kind of dedicated servers on PC. Like it just wouldn't. It wouldn't be anything insane. It would just be like I could put my world up, and Steve could just jump in it and play it whenever he felt like, and we would just be able to build a world together.
Yeah.
But I
think that's what they need to do. And as I said, it's not about putting the PlayStation versions down, but I do feel like they need to make the most out of their platforms to bring them together. That's just how I feel. Perhaps sort of the millions of kids that play on PlayStation or something would probably feel a bit differently, but
All right, now there's a couple games I'm going to hit because I think these were the best looking games of last generation. Period. I don't think anything competes with them.
We already said Gears 3.
Well, no, I think Judgment outdoes Gears 3 in graphics. It looks better. You got to give it to Judgment. If I'm going to put any Gears of War on a graphics comparison against anything, it's going to be Judgment.
Yeah.
Judgment is one of the best looking games, period. It outdid anything on PlayStation, Xbox, except for 2 other games. Crysis 3, which was a multiplat that looked fucking insane, and Halo 4. And all these games came like right on top of one another. I mean, Judgment came, like a year later, but
that was
right
March
on top of one another.
2017.
Yeah. But those 3 games, I think, rounded off last generation as the best looking games, period. People could argue Dead Space 3 maybe is in that list. But I thought those were my favorite looking games of last generation. Tomb Raider came out from Crystal Dynamics in 2013.
That was good. I was surprised by that.
Judgment came out March 19th, 2013, and literally blew people's fucking minds on the graphics. The story was okay. The multiplayer was fun, and the new mode was fun, but it just didn't have Horde mode, which disappointed a lot of fucking people.
Yeah, and I think the fact that the multiplayer was like COG versus COG, and it sort of was really sort of codified.
Yeah.
You
They
know,
changed controls up too.
So I didn't really have a huge. The problem with the controls was that they took away being able to have a pistol and 2 main weapons. Like, if you'd have let me have my pistol and my 2 main weapons, but just switched it through with Y, I probably wouldn't have had too much problem. And also being able to throw grenades with the left bumper. I mean, I personally preferred that.
No, I didn't mind the control changes, but I remember that being a big kind of uproar.
Yeah.
You know, I won't deny that. Yeah, it affected how people played Gears, because it was like the first real huge change since the original. Like, the controls pretty much stayed pretty standard.
Yeah.
Another game that looked fantastic was BioShock Infinite.
That was a great game.
Yeah.
Great game.
It was the true sequel to
the original.
The original.
Well, it was actually a prequel, wasn't it? It was set before it.
Yeah. Spoilers.
Oh. Oh, it's been 3 years, 2 years.
Metro Last Light. We all had
didn't play the Metro games until Redux. Didn't think they were that good. I just found them a bit boring. I don't know, maybe it's just me.
Saints Row 4. I love that game. Came out in 2013. I played it on PC, I'll be honest. So I didn't have, I know it didn't hold up as well on 360. But without a doubt, one of the funniest games I ever played. Diablo 3 came out later, September 3rd. I never actually played that on 360. I waited till Xbox One to play it.
I played it on both. I thought it was fantastic. It was absolutely great. Incredible.
Grand Theft Auto 5, September 17th, 2013. Fantastic game. I beat that game on 360. I still haven't beat the single player on Xbox One, but I put in quite a bit of time in on the online mode.
I rented that, and then when I had it, the rental company went under, so I just got to keep the disc. But I then bought it on Xbox One, and I hate how Rockstar games control.
No, they don't feel great.
I think the people move like buses, and the cars feel like they're made out of paper. And I always felt this was the first GTA 5 specifically felt like they moved to Burnout Paradise controls for car physics, because before that they felt like GTA 4 felt like you were driving a fucking boat wherever you were going, because you would push right on the car to turn right, and you would see the whole suspension of the car move, like the car would pull to the right, the whole fucking thing. It was just like, wow, this thing must weigh like 1,000,000 fucking pounds to turn. Like, it just didn't make any sense. So I actually really enjoyed the physics in 5 compared to most of the other ones. I mean, they're still not realistic by any means, but they were way better than 4s or 3s, to be honest. I'm still trying to get through some of these. Fable Anniversary. Oh, that was really good. I liked that because I never played the original Fable. Well, I think I played the beginning when I rented it once, but on BC for 360. But when I finally got around to playing that, that was really good. I enjoyed that. That was, and I felt like that and Fable 2, and also sort of Fable 3 was line head of their best. Like I'm not keen on this Fable Legends thing. I think it's been too long since they just made what they're best at. But maybe
Yeah, I
that's just
agree.
me.
And then
And you
came
know-
out the
Oh,
funniest game of all time on console. You know what game I'm talking about? It's an RPG. I don't think any game has ever been this funny. South Park: The Stick of Truth.
That's a great game.
It's absolutely the funniest video game ever. It is
Incredible.
just it's the closest thing I've ever seen that you go from TV to video game, or like just another medium to a game, and just be as true as possible to the original vision of it. Like it is you are in the world of South Park in the same way when you watch it in the show. Like you're totally there. The voice acting's all there. Like every little tiny bit of it is South Park. It doesn't feel like a rip off of the show or something. It just feels like you're in South Park. And I can't think of many properties that do that. I really don't. I still think it's one of the only that's ever been able to cross over like that.
Yeah, Obsidian, it took them long enough, but they did good work there. I'm really interested in seeing how the Fractured But Whole
Sound clip.
does.
The Wolf Among Us came out November 4th, 2014. Fan-fucking-tastic game. I'm going to probably replay through that. I love that. It's one of my favorite games of all time. I was telling you earlier, Steve. It's awesome. Far Cry 4, beautiful game. Sancho
Love
Get
that
Out
on
of Hell.
Xbox One.
We're kind of getting into like 2015 stuff, so it's kind of all the BS third-party stuff. Lego
It helps.
Diamonds, Metal Gear Solid 5, The Phantom Pain, The Guitar Hero Live, WWE 2K16, Life is Strange, Black Ops 3. Like the 360 still has a lot of games. Rise of the Tomb Raider, Tropico 5, Resident Evil 0 HD. Like this, the 360 is a valid console. Like if you didn't upgrade, I really think so, Steve.
Yeah, I agree.
I'm looking at all this unreleased stuff. There's tons of it. Football Manager. Well, they never released. That's all unreleased in the States.
Yeah, they did get some Football Managers out.
But yeah, it's like Tropico and Resident Evil are the last things that I see that are coming. Tropico 5, Resident Evil 0 HD remaster. Even 360 is getting remasters, Steve.
Yeah.
Oh my god, that's it. We've made it through the life of the 360, the games list. We've done it, Steve. With just a slight amount of like going off topic, talking about buying a 360, the Gears of War version.
Well, it was a great console.
Oh, it's out of stock. I can't buy that one. No.
And it made, the things that PC did, PC never stopped doing. Obviously, PC was in a difficult spot for a while, but the 360, I think, when PC gaming dropped, 360 made all of this stuff standard. It made it, I don't use mainstream, but it made it much more popular, much more prevalent. And there's things that aren't so great come with that. Like I remember when EA first did their Tiger Woods game that had like all what was effectively cheat codes, and you had to pay for them all. And you had horse armor and stuff. You know what? Not all of it's been rosy, but you look at what gaming is today with like the DLC and the expansion and the multiplayer. Like I think 360 took that to another level with how they did it. Even things like parties, apps. Microsoft were there. They were the ones that did it and made it in the console space. It wasn't necessarily new overall, but they were the ones that sort of popularized these things.
Oh, without a doubt, they were the first.
And Nintendo did their thing with the Wii, which was very successful for them, and Sony did the PS3, and and then this generation they kind of looked at the 360 and said, well, what did they do well there? And then they just did that. I mean, I don't see them doing. No, and that's not to say that was wrong. That's not right. Microsoft should have done exactly the same thing. But the 360 is the model, in my opinion, that people should look at going forwards. How they did everything in the beginning. It's just.
Oh, I know. I agree.
And all the new IPs that they brought through, and a lot of them sold really well and made lots of money. And some of them went off sort of elsewhere, like Mass Effect. But even like Perfect Dark, Zero, and Cameo made them a lot of money. Where there were sort of other things going on that perhaps the transition to HD development did take down a lot of developers and publishers, and I think it affected as the way that multiplayer has changed since 2007 has made the landscape very different. But that the 360 was a beast.
Yeah. I'm sorry, 1 second.
And Gears of War is just fantastic, and if anybody disagrees, then I'm just gonna hunt you down.
All right. Well, oh no, what? Go for it.
Geometry Wars 2 didn't get mentioned either. That was fantastic. I got to the top of the leaderboards. That game was amazing, and it breaks my fragile heart how Geometry Wars Dimensions was. Just kills me.
Yeah. All right, let's see. I need to... I don't know. Is there anything else to talk about on the 360? Like you said, like the actual entertainment side of it was huge. It gave us a place, even though you had to pay for Xbox Live to do it. It was like the first place that you really had to play it. Like they had the apps ready to go. Like Netflix was there the day Netflix got big. Like you weren't sitting there waiting like, oh, will they ever support me? Will they hook this up? No, maybe.
And they had like what was it called? 1 versus 100, and that was innovative. And they really just, and then they made Connect, and I do think that changed their focus a lot. And that wasn't necessarily wrong, but I think the problem was that they didn't refocus after that. They just tried to sort of ride on that train, and I think that's sort of where they ended up in 2013 with the problems that they had. But it doesn't take away the 8 years that 360 had between 2005 and 2013 that were great. It was hugely successful for Microsoft and Xbox, and it was important for the games industry, I think, because you look at how sort of connected and stuff everything's moved on. I just think if games weren't like that in that space and they weren't so sociable, I don't know. I don't know if I think that would be a problem if they weren't. So.
All right. Well, I think that's going to do it for the show. We've been going on a lot longer than I actually thought we were going to go. But we covered the Xbox 360. I appreciate everybody for tuning in for our special Thanksgiving edition version of the show, celebrating the life of the Xbox 360. It's kind of, it was nice timing because there's not much gaming news. Go ahead and go place Minecraft Story Mode Episode 3. It's out now. Hopefully I'll have beaten Game of Thrones by next week's podcast, and we'll do a spoiler cast at the end of the show for what happens in that, if I can get Steve to play it. I know Vern has already finished it.
I will do my best to.
Yeah.
Finish it next week.
So I'm looking at $127 to buy an Xbox 360 after shipping and tax. Thinking, Steve, thinking. I'm sorry. But we appreciate everybody for tuning in this week. We will catch you next week. So stay safe, enjoy your holiday, and eat plenty of turkey.
And
Deep fried only.
play lots of video games.
Yes. And don't be late for work. That's what happened to me the other day. It sucked. All right. Well, we'll catch you later. Peace out, everybody.
Yeah.
Game over.
Oh, that's good.
I'm playing outro music. Give me
Oh,
one
sorry.
second.